Hello, I am here to read chapter 15 of The Watsons Go to Birmingham. This is the last chapter in the book, so we're going to get to the conclusion of the book here today. Before I get started, I want to go over kind of what happened in chapter 13 and 14. So Kenny has had two very traumatic, difficult experiences in the last two chapters. So you can imagine those kind of experiences would have an effect on anyone, let alone a kid of his age who's even younger than a lot of you guys are. So you can imagine kind of how he is feeling after those things have happened to him in the last two chapters. So you should kind of take that information and kind of understand that that's still having an effect on him here in this chapter. And one other thing I had said, once they had taken the trip down to Birmingham, I had said our characters are going to change a little bit. And I think if you think back to the last 3 or 4 chapters since they've been in Alabama, I think you can kind of see a little bit of a change, specifically in Kenny and also even in Byron. And I think you're going to continue to see how they have changed a little bit here in this chapter as well. Okay. So I'm super excited. I hope you've enjoyed this book. I know it's one of my favorites. I think it's a really good book. And we are going to finish it off today with chapter 15. And chapter 15 is called The World Famous Watson Pet Hospital. Maybe some of you can relate to this chapter a little bit, at least the title of that chapter here once we start reading. So here we go. Mama and Dad didn't know I was in the living room. We'd been back in Flint for a couple of weeks, and they were still talking about what had happened, but never around us. The only thing I knew for sure was that the bomb wasn't dropped on the church by an airplane. Grandma Sands called a couple of times and told them that the police thought 2 white men drove by in a car and threw it during services, or that they'd already hidden it in the church with a clock set to go off during Sunday school. However it got in the church, it had killed 4 little girls, blinded a couple more, and sent a bunch of other people to the hospital. I couldn't stop wondering if those 2 little girls I saw on the lawn were okay. From my secret hiding place in the living room, I could listen to Mama and Dad, and it seemed like they spent most of the time trying to figure out how they could explain to us what happened. Some of the time they were mad, some of the time they were calm, and some of the time they just sat on the couch and cried. Even though none of us kids got hurt by the bomb, they acted like they were worried about us. They weren't too worried about Byron, and weren't worried at all about Joey. We'd all agreed not to tell her what happened at that church, and had left Birmingham that night before she had a chance to find anything out. I was kind of surprised, because the way Mom and Dad were talking, I could tell they were most worried about me. They came out of the kitchen and sat on the couch. I know they were talking about me again. Mama said, "He's been disappearing, Daniel. Hours go by, and I don't know where he is." "What's he say when you ask him where he's been?" "He tells me he hasn't been anywhere. He says I shouldn't worry. It's so strange. I call him, and he's nowhere to be found. But a few minutes later, he just pops up." "Doesn't Byron know where he goes?" "He says he doesn't." "He is being awfully quiet." "Something's wrong. I wonder if Mr. Roberts' friend was right. I wonder if he really did see Kenny in the church afterward. Lord, who knows what that poor boy saw?" "Willona, he says he only left Grandma Sands to tell us Joey was okay. I don't know. What can we do?" "But Joey swears it was him she followed away from there. And you know that child would just as soon die as lie. I just wish I knew where he goes and why." I had been disappearing, but Mama really didn't need to worry. I wasn't going anywhere. I'd just been going behind the couch for a little while every day. There was a big enough space between the couch and the wall for me to squeeze in back there and just sit in a little ball. It was quiet and dark and still back there. Byron called this little area the world-famous Watson Pet Hospital, and he made me and Joey believe that magic powers, genies, and angels all lived back there. I was waiting to see if that was true. He started calling it the world-famous Watson Pet Hospital after we noticed that if something bad happened to one of our dogs or cats, they just automatically knew they had to crawl in that space and wait to see if they were going to get better. Since Mama and Dad had told us that animal doctors cost $1,000 each time you went to them, our pets knew they wouldn't be seeing any veterinarians, and that the most help they could get was to crawl behind the couch and see if they could make a deal with the magic powers there. If one of our dogs got hit by a car and could walk away, or if one of them chewed through an electric wire or ran away from home and showed up a couple of weeks later half-starved or something, they'd head right for the back of the couch. If one of our cats got beat up by a dog or spent too much time throwing up disgusting pieces or got thrown out of a tree or something, they'd zip right straight into the world-famous Watson Pet Hospital. Those times when one of our pets got hurt, I'd wake up the next morning and run out to the living room and climb on the back of the couch and look over to see how it was doing. If I looked down there and the dog looked up at me with sad eyes and banged its tail a couple of times before he put his head back down, or if the cat looked up and hissed at me, I knew they'd made it through their first night and that the magic powers were probably going to keep them alive. If, when I looked behind the couch, I just saw a crumbled up yellow towel where the dog or cat had been laying, I knew Mama would soon be telling us that Sooty or Fluffy or Scamp or Lady or whoever the patient was hadn't done too well and would be spending the rest of the time running happily in cat and dog heaven. But I knew better. I knew this was some made-up garbage. I knew that magic powers had decided not to keep the animal alive and that Dad had got rid of the body before we woke up. It was kind of strange, because whatever it was that was behind the couch seemed to work best on dogs. Whenever dogs survived the world-famous Watson Pet Hospital, they always came out a lot friendlier. When they came out, they might walk kind of funny, but it seemed like all they wanted to do was lick you and waddle around after you wherever you went. Blackie had been in the hospital twice, and he had got along great with everyone now, even strangers. Even cats. But cats were different. If one of them survived the hospital, it'd come out and give you a dirty look and be a lot meaner than it was before it went in. Most of the time after a cat visited the world-famous Watson Pet Hospital, it wouldn't let anyone but Joetta touch it. But that was okay, because most of the time, nobody but Joetta wanted to touch those stupid cats anyway. I was waiting to see if the magic powers were going to treat me like a dog or a cat. Or if when Byron or Joey woke up one morning, they'd find a crumbled up yellow towel where I was supposed to be. The only trouble was that the magic powers seemed to be taking a real long time to decide what was going to happen to me. Maybe I wasn't spending enough time back there. Mama started trying to force me to do more things with Rufus, but it seemed like he'd changed while we were gone and wasn't as much fun to be with. Him and Cody got real happy when I gave them my pillowcase full of dinosaurs. I was getting too mature to play with toys anymore. Mama even forced Byron to take me with him when him and Buphead played basketball. But you didn't have to be Albert Einstein to figure out that the only reason the big guys were playing with me was because Byron had threatened them when my back was turned. But what really bugged me the most was when Mama tried to force me to do things with Joetta. I'd never noticed what a little crybaby and snitch she was. Every time you turned around, she was threatening to go tell on you, or was whining about something, or just being a plain old pest. After a while, to get even with her, I wouldn't even look at her. I started hating her guts. I only wanted to come out of the world-famous Watson Pet Hospital to eat and go to the bathroom. I even started going into it after Mama and Dad went to bed at night. I started sleeping there. I spent so much time there that Byron finally figured out where I was going. I looked up one day, and there were his eyeballs staring down at me. Hi, By. Hey, Kenny. So this is where you've been hanging out, huh? Are you gonna tell on me? Man, When you ever known me to be a snitch? Never. You're right. He just kept looking at me. You want me to get you something to eat? Uh-uh. Byron walked over and turned on the TV, then stuck his head back behind the couch. You want to watch some TV? Uh-uh. His head disappeared, and he watched Bat think. When the show was over, his head came back. I'm gonna go play some ball. You want to come? I'll come in a minute. But looked like he didn't believe me. Cool. Later. Even though Byron had a reputation for not being a snitch, I got the feeling he told on me. When they sat on the couch, Mama and Dad quit talking like nobody was around and got real careful about what they said. They started saying stuff about how proud they were of me and what a nice kid I was and junk like that. But it sounded like they'd been practicing what to say. I turned my ears off when they came around. Mama also quit bugging me to find out where I was going. I knew they'd busted me for sure when Joetta's snitchy little face started peeking around the couch every morning. Byron even started sleeping on the couch at night. Right after Mama and Dad went to bed, I crawled back there, and he'd come out with his pillow and blanket. Night, Kenny. Night, Bob. Every morning, I'd wake up, and Byron would be looking down at me. He'd wake me up by touching the top of my head. Hey, Kenny. Hi, Bye. You already eat? Uh-uh. Come on. I crawled out from behind the couch and let Byron pour out my cereal and milk. After I finished, I said, Thanks. Wait, ain't you gonna change out of them PJs? Oh, yeah. I changed and went back to the couch. Bye was sitting there. Hold on, Kenny. Watch some cartoons with me. Okay, I will in a minute. Byron grabbed my arm before I could crawl back behind the couch. No, man. At least say stay for Felix the cat. Okay. I sat next to him on the couch. When Felix the cat was over, I thought Bob would force me to watch more cartoons, but he didn't. He let me crawl back behind the couch. Check you out later, Kenny. See you, bye. As much time as Byron started spending on the couch, I thought I was going to have to make room for a bed for him in the world-famous Watson Pet Hospital. Every time I'd look up, he'd be there. We'd have to go eat or watch some TV or go to Mitchell's for something or change clothes or stuff like that. One day, his head popped over the back of the couch and he said, Come on, I got something to show you. I knew I had to go. If I wouldn't, he'd pull me out by the legs. I followed Byron upstairs into the bathroom and he stood in front of the sink and looked in the mirror. He scrunched his face up so we could see the bottom of his chin. Then he took his thumb and finger and felt around there. He smiled and real slow pulled the thumb and finger away. Check this out, Jack. I looked real close. There was a long, skinny black hair growing out of Byron's chin. He held it like it was worth $1 million. And there's another one coming out too. This made me wonder about my mustache. I hadn't looked at it for a long time. Thought it might be pretty long by now. I climbed up on the toilet and leaned over the sink to see. Maybe it was because I hadn't looked in the mirror for a long time, but as soon as I saw myself with my lazy eyes still being lazy and my face looking so sad, I slammed my eyes shut and started crying. I even fell off the toilet. Byron caught me and set me on the floor. He knew this was some real embarrassing stuff, so he closed the bathroom door and sat on the tub and waited for me to stop. But I couldn't. I felt like someone had pulled a plug on me and every tear inside was rushing out. If there was a forest fire somewhere, all Smokey the Bear would have to do was hold me upside down over it and the fire wouldn't have a chance. Byron sat next to me on the floor and put my head in his lap. I still couldn't stop, even though I was soaking him worse than Joey ever drooled on anybody. It was real embarrassing. I'm sorry, Bye. Shut up and cry if you want. That sounded like a real good idea, so I did. I think I cried for about 200 hours. Why would they do that, Bye? I was sounding real bad. My throat was jumping up around in my neck and making a bunch of weird noises. Why would they hurt some little kids like that? He waited a long time before he answered. I don't know, Kenny. Mama and Dad say they just can't help themselves. They did it because they're sick. But I don't know. I never heard enough sickness that makes you kill little girls just because you don't want them in your school. I don't think they're sick at all. I think they just let hate eat them up and turn them into monsters. But it's okay now. They can't hurt you here. It's all right. My Adam's apple felt like it was going to blow a hole in my throat, so I said, I did go to church, Vi. I saw what happened. I saw two of those little girls. I thought Joey got killed, too. We all did, Kenny. There ain't nothing wrong with being sad or scared about that. I'm sad about it, too. I got real scared, too. But, man, no one's going to hurt you here, Kenny. But bye. I tried to think of how to say it. I'm not scared. I'm just real ashamed of myself. That was it. That was the main thing I'd finally found out from being a patient in the world-famous Watson Pet Hospital. Kenny, you ain't got nothing to be ashamed of. But you don't know what happened, Byron. You don't know what I did. Man, everybody cried. Mama was crying. Dad was scared. He cried too. That was some real scary stuff. That was some real sad stuff. He still didn't understand. Byron, I left Joey. I thought the whirlpool had her, and instead of fighting him like you did, I left. I ran from him. How come you were so brave to fight him, and all I could do was run? All I could do was save a shoe, a stupid ripped up shoe. I couldn't stop crying. Oh, man. You ain't gonna start talking that whirlpool mess again, are you? I told you the whirlpool is some made up garbage. I told you the only one I was fighting in the water was your stupid little behind. There wasn't no one in that water but you and me. That's what you think, Vi, but I know better. I've seen him twice. I couldn't believe Byron was still talking to me. Most of the time, if I started sounding weepy and whiny, he'd take right off. Look, Kenny, if you don't quit talking about that whirlpool nonsense, I'm gonna leave you here to cry all alone. There ain't no such thing as whirlpool. And he stopped sounding so mean and said, and there ain't no such thing as magic powers either. I was surprised he brought up the magic powers. You think I don't know why you've been hanging out behind the couch? He grabbed my ear and twisted my head until I had to look at him. You think I don't know why you wait for some stupid magic powers or genies or an angel to make you feel better? Dig this. You can wait behind that couch for the rest of your life, and ain't no magic powers gonna come back there and make you feel nothing. The only thing that's gonna happen back there is that you're gonna stunt your growth from being a little ball all day. He pulled my ear to make sure I was listening. If you've been spending so much time thinking about how you didn't save Joey, why don't you stop and think about why she wasn't in that church? Why don't you spend some time thinking about who it was that led her away? But it wasn't me, Byron. I never. Man, shut up and listen. He twisted my ear to make me be quiet. Ain't no genies in this world, Kenny. Ain't no magic powers. There ain't even no angels. Not in this neighborhood, anyway. Man, I just don't get you. You're supposed to be the one who's so smart. How can you believe in something as stupid as magic powers and genies living behind a couch, but not believe it was part you that took Joey out of that church? Byron started throwing me curveballs. And if you hadn't been born, who would have taken her away from that bomb? No one. If you hadn't been born, and she'd have walked out of that hot church and saw a stranger waving at her from across the street, you think she would have followed him? No. She'd have gone right back in there. If you hadn't been born, who would have gone in that church to see if Joey really was in there? Me and Mama and Dad was all too scared. You was the only one brave enough to go in there. Every time he made a point, he twisted my ear to make me understand better. But Byron, it's just not fair. What about those other kids? You know, they had brothers and sisters and mamas and daddies who loved them just as much as we loved Joey. How come no one came and got them out of that church? How's it fair? How come their relatives couldn't come and warn them? Byron let go of my ear and thought for a second. Kenny, things ever ain't gonna be fair. How's it fair that two grown men could hate Negroes so much that they'd kill some kids just to stop them from going to school? How's it fair that even though the cops down there might know who did it, nothing will probably ever happen to those men? It ain't. But you just gotta understand that that's the way it is, and keep on stepping. Byron let me sniff and wipe my hand across my eyes before he slid my head back onto the linoleum and stood up. He went over and got some toilet paper and wiped my tears and my boogers off his legs. Then he let a couple of sheets of toilet paper float down and land on me and said, "Blow your nose, wash your face. You've been behind that couch long enough. It's about time you cut this mess out. Mama and Dad beginning to think your little behind is seriously on the blink. Today is the day you check out of the world-famous Watson Pet Hospital. Don't let me catch you back there no more. You ain't got no cause to be ashamed or scared or nothing. You smart enough to figure this one out yourself. Besides, you getting the word from the top wolf himself. You're gonna be alright, baby bro. I swear for God." He walked over to the mirror and scrunched his face up so we could look at his chin again, then used his thumb and finger to pull that long, skinny black hair out a little bit. He let the hair go, smiled at himself, and ran his hands along his head like he was brushing his hair. "Shoot," he said. "I sure wish someone would come clean and tell me who my real folks was. There just ain't no way in heck two people as ugly as your mama and daddy could ever have a child as fine as me." He blew himself a kiss in the mirror, then left the bathroom. Before he shut the door, I could see that Mama and Dad and Joey were standing there in a little knot, trying not to let me know they were eavesdropping. Mama whispered, "What's going on, Bi? Why was Crank crying like that? Is he okay?" He told her, "Kenny's gonna be cool. He's related to me, ain't he?" "Byron Watson, how many times am I gonna have to tell you about saying ain't?" Some of the time it was hard to figure Byron out. He was very right about some things, and he was very wrong about some things. He was very wrong when he said the whirlpool was something he'd made up. If he'd ever had his ankle grabbed by it, he'd know it was real. If he'd seen the way it was crouched down, crawling around in the dust and smoke of that church in Birmingham, he'd know it wasn't some made-up garbage. If he'd ever seen those horrible toes, he'd know the whirlpool was as serious as a heart attack. He was also very wrong about there not being anything like magic powers or genies or angels. Maybe those weren't the things that could make a run-over dog walk without wobbling, but they were out there. Maybe they were in the way your father smiled at you, even after you'd messed something up real bad. Maybe they were in the way you understood that your mother wasn't trying to make you the laughing stock of the whole school when she'd call you over in front of a bunch of your friends and you spit on your finger to wipe the sleep out of your eyes. Maybe it was magic powers that let you know she was just being Mama. Maybe they were the reason that you really didn't care when the kids would say, "Yuck, you let your mama slob on you?" And you had to say, "Shut up, that's my mama. We got the same germs." Maybe there were genies in the way your sister would throw a stupid tea party for you, and you had fun even though it was kind of embarrassing to sit at a little table and sip water out of plastic teacups. Maybe there were magic powers hiding in the way your older brother made all the worst thugs in the neighborhood play basketball with you, even though you double dribbled every time and they threw you the ball. And I'm sure there was an angel in Birmingham when Grandma Sands wrapped her little arms around all the weird Watsons and said, "My family, my beautiful, beautiful family." I climbed up on the toilet and leaned over the sink to take a look. I smiled. Byron was very right about some things too. He was very right when he said I was too smart to believe magic powers lived behind a couch. He also knew what he was talking about when he said I was going to be all right. Joetta banged on the bathroom door. "Kenny, Byron said you're feeling much better now. If that's right, come on out. I gotta go to the bathroom real bad." She said real like it had a million letters in it. Some of the time I wondered if there really was something wrong with me. A few minutes ago I'd been crying on the floor like a kindergarten baby, and now I was looking in the mirror laughing. I blew my nose and splashed a little water on my face, because I wanted to go out. Besides, I had to think of a way to at least get half of my dinosaurs back from Rufus. Come on in, Joey. Alright, so that's the end of the book. We finished The Watsons Go to Birmingham. If you continue going, there is an epilogue at the end that kind of explains some of the historical events that were going on at the time. I am not going to make you read that because we actually talked about a lot of that stuff when we read the nonfiction book earlier in the third quarter. There is a paragraph about the girls who did end up dying in that church bombing. So if that is something that you want to read a little bit about, you can kind of skim through that information and read about that. But that is all. I hope you enjoyed the book. I do want to go over the chapter 15 questions real quick. So here we go. The first two are the comprehension questions, so those you should just answer with complete sentences. Number one is, what was the world-famous Watson's Pet Hospital? So Kenny kind of gave a lot of details about what that pet hospital, where it was, and what the pets that they had actually did there. Okay. Number two, why did Kenny say he was spending so much time behind the couch in the pet hospital? Okay. And then the last question. And this is the one where you need to make a claim, provide evidence, explain your evidence, how it fits, cite it, and then give a conclusion. And the question is, this one should be pretty easy. Which character in the book was your favorite, and explain why? And I like that question because a lot of the different characters in this book had a lot of interesting and different personalities from one another. So of all the characters in the book, who was your favorite, and explain why? Okay. But other than that, that is it. That's the last chapter in your book. When you return your work here for this last 2 weeks, if you do have a hard copy book, please make sure you return that to the school with all of your homework and things. But other than that, I hope you enjoyed reading the book. I hope you realize how it kind of did go along with the nonfiction that we read earlier. I just hope you had a pleasant experience reading it, and hopefully it brought you a few laughs and things during this time when we've been working at home. So I guess that's it. If you have any comments on the book and you want to email me, give me a call or post something on Google Classroom or whatnot, go for it. I'd be interested to hear what you guys thought of the book, and that'd be really cool if you did that. So until I talk to you guys again here or see you guys again, I hope you enjoyed the book and have an awesome day.